Give everyone another minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar this afternoon. Let's get started. My name is Tom Stafford. I'm a regional director here at Board. The title of today's webinar is Financial Controlling in the Digital Era, and I'm joined with my colleague Tim Caldwell, one of our solution consultants here, who's going to be getting into the live product demonstration. But before we do that, just a couple things to go over. First of all, we have a chat section in the GoToMeeting application. So if you have any questions during the session today, please feel free to submit those, and we'll be happy to address the questions at the end of the webinar. Just quickly go over here a brief agenda. So I'm going to give everyone just a quick organizational and functional overview of Board, and then we'll hand it over to Tim, who's going to get into the live product demonstration. And then, as I mentioned, we'll wrap up at the end for a few minutes and answer any questions that are submitted. So who is Board? Board has been around for a number of years, 24 years now. We're an international software vendor, headquartered internationally in Switzerland, with our North American headquarters here in Boston, Massachusetts, which is where I'm out of. And we're exclusively focused on one product, which is Board. Unlike a lot of software companies out there, we don't have multiple applications. So all of our research, development, and investment goes into the one product, the platform we're going to show you today, which is the #1 decision-making platform in the market. We have over 3,500 customers internationally. Some of the customers we work with, I put on the screen here so you can get familiar with some of the companies that are using Board. Some familiar logos there, I'm sure, for most of you. What I'd like to highlight about the companies that we work with is Board is industry agnostic. So as you can see there with the different companies that I've listed, we work across all industries, whether you're financial services, insurance, manufacturing, retail. It does not make a difference for Board. Board is flexible and capable of working across any type of business, no matter what industry you might be in. Over the years, Board's received a lot of accolades from analyst firms all across the industry. You can see here some of the positive feedback we've gotten as being number one vendor of choice across a lot of different firms for corporate performance management, for business intelligence, and for analytics. And one thing that I think is interesting, and I'll just spend a moment to touch on, is Gartner. For those of you who are familiar with Gartner, they come out annually with something called the Magic Quadrant, which is a report that helps companies choose different types of technologies. And one thing that's unique about the situation with Board is we're actually featured on 4 of Gartner's Magic Quadrants. So when you think about that, we're a single platform, yet we have the ability to be featured on all these different quadrants. So it really speaks to the capability and flexibility that Board's able to deliver to the marketplace. For most of you, I'm sure you're familiar with a screen like this, your documents library. Most folks that are on the finance and FP&A side, typically when they come in the office in the morning, this is the first screen that they're greeted with. All of their spreadsheets that they're using to aggregate information, to do calculations, and to do reporting. And this is one of the challenges, or one of the biggest challenges, I'd say, facing most companies today, is the lack of visibility and confidence in their data. And as a result of that, most organizations are dealing with a very siloed and fragmented data set across their enterprise, whether it's their ERP data, their HR data, their CRM information. All of this is held in different databases across your network, and it's very difficult to work across all these different data sources. Typically, you're using Excel as the main tool to aggregate the information, to analyze it, and to report on it. And obviously, as your business continues to grow and become more complex, the challenge becomes greater and greater to manage a process like this. And this is obviously a very simplistic look at what most companies are dealing with. But as you add more people, more processes, more data sources, it just becomes unmanageable. And that's when most companies get to a point where they start looking for a solution like Board. So Board is a platform, as I mentioned, and what's unique about Board is we don't just do one thing. Board's a comprehensive solution that does everything from business intelligence, so helping organizations visualize their data, providing you with scorecarding, dashboards, and other types of reporting, as well as corporate performance management, so automating your entire financial process from start to finish. And that includes everything from budgeting, planning, and forecasting through to profitability analysis, S&OP, and even financial consolidation. But Board doesn't stop there. We actually take it a step further and have a complete analytical capability as well. So we're able to do things like predictive analytics, heat mapping, and clustering. So really helping organizations understand all sorts of data, whether it's financial, operational, or other. Board is a tool to help you really understand your products, your customers, and your business, and make those important business decisions much more effectively. And how do we do that? Well, Board actually sits on top of all your various data sources. So whether it's your ERP, your CRM, or legacy systems, whether it's data warehouses, cloud databases, or even things like Excel and text files, Board has built-in capabilities to load all this data and to integrate directly to your source systems. So you never have to worry about whether or not the data that you're accessing is up to date or correct. With Board, you're always working off of a unified, centralized database, and what we like to say is one source of the truth. So you can be assured that the information is 100% accurate and up to date. So to kind of wrap things up, and before I hand it over to Tim, a few of the things that I think are important as we go through the product demonstration today really are the main points to take away and the advantages of being able to have that financial control of your business is forward-looking analysis. So understanding and being able to model your business and do scenario planning to help you predict different outcomes. Being able to increase forecast and budget accuracy. So being able to really streamline those processes and provide the accuracy and detail that you need, as well as providing better collaboration and self-service across your organization so that your managers and directors have the ability to run reports and understand their areas of the business more effectively. While increasing speed and improving collaboration, all of this leads to better control, and at the end of the day, a single point of capability for you guys to have full access to all of your information and to help you make those better business decisions. So as I mentioned, Board is one solution that does it all, from CPM to BI to analytics, and it's the #1 decision-making platform out there. So on that note, thank you for your time, and we'll hand it over to Tim, who's going to get started on the live product demonstration.
All right, thanks for that great introduction. And I'm going to jump right into Board. So the first thing I want to call out as we dive into the product is that I'm just using a Google Chrome browser. So Board's HTML5 abilities allow it to be deployed anywhere with nothing but a modern browser and the appropriate security, whether that's a laptop or a tablet or even a cell phone. So right out of the gate versus some products, you have some value with the ability to deploy this to hundreds of people very easily and centrally control it. Like I said, all you need is security. But the other important part about security is security in Board dictates everything that you can do in C. So you may have users that only have one thing to do in Board, and that's all that they'll have access to. And that really speeds up training time. So if you think about, those hundreds of spreadsheets that Tom had on the screen, you have to tell people where to go or email them. In Board, everything is just tailored to the user's experience, and it just works. So what we're looking at here is a dashboard from an internet company, and they make they get customers And so a big part of their revenue stream is web registrations and signing up for their service. So they're displaying that right here on the main screen. But these aren't just pretty pictures. Everything in Board is interactive. So if I want to click into web registrations, it will take me to a dashboard that shows me a nice chart of web registrations coming through by month and also a tabular representation. In Board, however, there's always another layer to look at. So if I want to double click on any of these things, Board is going to drill down to the data that lives underneath. So I click on MSN, and now I can see in thousands the registrations by age band, so age group. So I can see how we're doing. And if I want to sort that, I can just click my variants and see that we're doing pretty well in 45 to 60-year-olds, not as good in 35 to 44-year-olds. But maybe I have a different question. Somebody calls me and they don't care about age. They want to know the split between gender. Board has a functionality called Drill Anywhere. So anywhere in the system, automatically, any type of dimensionality that lives under any number or chart or graph that you're looking at, you can just click on it. And if I want to see it by gender, I can pull up that same data and see that we have a pretty even split between guys and gals with how we're signing up. But one thing jumps out at me right away. My budget isn't listed by gender. And so maybe that's something I want to track. So in Board, we do things a little differently. Normally you would send an email, maybe pick up the phone. In Board, what I'm going to do is click my chat button, click on my finance manager, and then I'm going to share this screen and say, fix this or whatever I want to say. And what that does is gives them a link to click and also sends them an email. And when they click the link either in the email or in the Board system, it's going to take them not just to Board, it's going to take them right to the place in Board where I have my comments. So the ability to not only drill and pivot and understand the data in really rich ways, but also bring conversations into the system in context so that we can drive people to results with a minimal amount of effort and really minimize communication mishaps and errors that everybody's prone to. Let's go back to our cover sheet, and I want to show you just some of the visualizations that are available on Board. And one of my favorite ones is geography visualizations. We have all different kinds of charts and graphs, Pareto charts, waterfall charts, line charts, bar charts, any kind of chart that you can imagine. But what if you want to look at how things are going by location? Well, that's what this chart shows. So if I want to look at how my customers in Seattle are doing, I can click Seattle. But I don't have to stop there. I can keep scrolling in and literally see the place in Seattle where my customer is located. So, if I want to go take a visit, I can look right here in Board and see, oh, I'm going to stay at the Marriott and go give them a visit. And they're really doing well with growth. And so maybe I want to take them out to dinner at one of these restaurants that are right around their location to kind of celebrate that. Another thing that we can do that's very important in Board is look at sales data. So everybody cares about sales. It's the lifeblood of our business. So in Board, again, we have another sales dashboard, and we can see here that we've got a nice trend chart. These are all interactive. If you want to look at different things, you just highlight and select them. Again, I'm going to drill on variance if I want to. I can drill down and understand what's going on underneath these numbers, like we talked about before. One of the other great features about Board that I want to just mention, and then we'll talk a little bit about planning, is our ability to integrate with Office. So the Office suite, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, it's as simple as clicking a button. And this report can be downloaded and into Excel, but not just downloaded, not just a view. If I open this Excel file, I'm going to see this same report, but it's also going to give me my Board tab. So if I click on my Board tab and connect, I'm going to be able to then do the same kinds of drill downs, write back data into the Board, even modify the layout of that report in Excel with the functionality of the Office add-in. And that could be a whole long conversation of itself, so I'll just leave it there. But if you think about doing things like a monthly Board book or anything like that, you can connect those tools that you're used to the one source of the truth, secured, live, always correct data that's in Board. So it's very important. It's a very, very nice tool. So what we're going to do now is leave this area, and again, we could spend hours and hours on the capabilities of Board to drill into detail and have a lot of business intelligence and understanding of what numbers are where. But before we leave, one other point I want to make is Board sits on top of your systems, not just your GL system, any system. This particular BI instance is bringing in live chat data from a website. Also audio files that you can listen to right in Board and hear customer service calls. Status from source systems to see their health and as they're going. We also bring in HR data to do HR forecasting. Any type of data, either inside your organization or third-party data outside your organization, including things like weather data or interesting use cases like GDP, we can bring those into Board to add color and context, not only to your actuals data, but also to planning data, which is where we're going to go right now. What we're looking at here is the same product. Again, everything in Board is all in one platform. You don't have to move data from a BI tool to a modeling tool to a predictive tool. It's all in one place, which really saves a lot of time and really helps that one source of the truth to be accurate, because you don't want to be waiting for something to update and wonder if you have the most current version. Everything in Board happens in real time because of that one platform. The platform includes workflow, and we're looking at an example of workflow right now. So what is workflow? Well, it's fairly self-explanatory. It helps guide us through processes. In Board, workflow can look like anything that you want. It's limited only by your imagination. Any type of process that includes any groups of people guiding through anything that you need them to go through, with the checks and balances of review, rejection, and tracking. What this also represents is potentially tens, if not hundreds, of spreadsheets that are systematized into a process that's repeatable and very quick to start. So let's start a forecast cycle. In spreadsheets, you might be in the basement making 100 spreadsheets and putting them in folders and emailing them to people and having data integrity issues and hoping that all your formulas are correct. In Board, we just click a button and start the process. So I'm going to go in and do some target setting. Target setting is important because it can really speed budgets and help drive people to achieve the goals financially that your organization has. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but the important part to remember is we can build any type of functionality. We can copy the last year's budget or forecast, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy the forecast. These are just some examples. Anything that you want to do here, including predictive analytics based on history and very complex algorithms, are at your disposal and Board to use for target setting. Maybe I want to, by category, apply some growth drivers. We can change these to anything we want and just click a button, and now through our whole P&L, we've applied growth drivers to our targets. Again, I'm looking at this at a high level. We're doing this by year, and that's great. But do I have to do it month by month and add it up? No, we did it by year here. Maybe I want to make this $220,000. All I have to do is save that number. It's a yearly total. And if I go to my month view, we can see my $220 there, and it's phased by basically my prior year forecast. In Board, you can phase it by anything you want. Prior year, current year, you can bring in that third-party data we were talking about and phase it with the weather if you wanted to do something interesting like that. So Board provides all the tools to really quickly and easily input data the way that you want to do it, with a lot of intelligence baked in. So you're not stuck entering 12 months of data. You can enter data at the year level and then adjust the months that need to be adjusted. One other nice feature in Board is the ability to type in numbers like I showed you with this yearly target, but also just type in the variance, and it's going to go ahead at all of that granularity that we just looked at and calculate that 6% variance. Those of you using Excel will think circular reference right now. Board's smart enough to know what you want to do and not be constrained by things like that. I'm going to go ahead and save my number, and then I'm going to send this target to one of my cost center managers. By simply clicking a button, I can make that happen. I'm going to go back now to my workflow and click refresh. Down here, you'll see sent went from 0 to 1. And that's not just tracking this workflow. What that also signifies is an email being sent to my cost center manager with a link. And when they get that link, or if they go into board and look at their messages, they'll see that their budget is now open for entry. And they can go in and interact with that budget by clicking the link or going into board. And it's all tracked right here. What does that look like? Let's change hats into a cost center manager for a moment. They're going to go to a screen that looks a little bit like this to enter their budget. Remember, we just set a target for them and sent it to them, okay? So when they come to their budget screen, and actually I'm going to switch to a different store because I think we did a target for store number 10. But when they come to their budget screen, they're going to see their target listed, and they're going to be able to type in budgets if they want, or if they don't want to fight authority, they can just go ahead and click accept target. That's going to take that target that we just created and seed their budget. So right now from the start, without doing hardly any work at all, they're in line with management expectations. Now, if you submitted a budget with a bunch of zeros, you're probably going to get a lot of questions about how much work you did. So of course, we're going to give them the ability to go in and input their budget and make it theirs and build all of the color and context that they know that's coming up in the next year or the next forecast period or whatever you're looking at. But again, we've provided some tools. So of course you can just do a manual adjustment by month, but you can also do phasing. So what's phasing? Well, maybe I have a yearly number and I don't want to just spread it by month. I want to use some sort of intelligent way to change it. So I have my target, but I think it's going to be $250,000. All I have to do is input that amount and then double click. We've provided some canned methods to phase that across the months. And these are just some examples of ones that you could use. So maybe I want to phase it with a 4-4-5 spread. All I have to do is click it. The system is going to take my number and spread that across the months with a 4-4-5. But if you're keen, you notice we have a big red error. What is that? Board also provides built-in validation so that we can put guardrails around what people are allowed to put in the budget. This can really save time on many iterations of back and forth. Now, if you want to go back and forth many times and have that fun negotiation about what a budget should be, we can turn this off or widen them so they're a little less, have a little more tolerance. The thing that I want you to notice though, it's not just a red alert. My submit button is now grayed out. I couldn't submit this budget if I wanted to. So the ultimate ability to kind of control a budget process in a way that makes sense for your organization and understand what people are doing when and putting parameters around what they can do. Let's go ahead and put this something back to a little more acceptable number here. I'm going to phase it evenly this time. And we should see that error validation go away, and there it is. So our error validation is going away. You can see that our submit button is now back. One other thing I want to mention here is our supporting documents section. We can load files and just other types of data into board. So Word documents, Excel documents, PDFs, anything that you can think of, we can load it into board. Hyperlinks to websites. So for example, if you read a news article on the web that said natural gas was going up 20% in your region in Q4, you made your natural gas expense go up 20% in Q4, you can actually embed the link to that news article in your budget and call attention to your manager to say, hey, I'm not out to lunch, this is on purpose, this is why, this is what I'm thinking. So keeping that conversation going and adding tons of context and color to the types of things that you are sending to management. When you're done with your budget and you've added all of your backup and all of the information, you simply submit it. And what that's going to do is a few things. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to lock down your budget. You'll notice there's no yellow anymore. I can no longer change these numbers. And the reason for that is when I go back to my workflow and hit refresh, it goes from sent to submitted. Again, another email gets generated, a manager goes in for review, they're alerted that a budget has been sent, but we don't want to be looking at a moving target. So that budget got locked down, the yellow went away, so that the manager has a chance to look at what you've submitted And there's no question that they're looking at the most up-to-date version because it's locked down and there's no way to change things after the fact. So again, very controlled and repeatable processes. If I go into manager review, and I'm not going to do it due to time, we can go in, or actually I will, I think we have a few minutes left. We can go in and see that that budget just got submitted, and not only see the budget, we can see a nice chart. So the chart's going to show me the budget versus the target versus the forecast. Remember, those were the things we were working with. We seeded the target with the forecast, then we tweaked it, and then we made a budget, and then we tweaked that. We can see these all together for all of our companies. If we want to see the data, we can do that. Again, the ability to drill down, drill anywhere, really get down into the granularity and detail of these things is always present in Board. But that communication that we just had is here too. So location 10, we just submitted. Well, I've looked at the numbers and I think it's okay. But if I were to reject it, I could put comments and talk about why, or do the chat that we talked about before. And when it gets rejected, their budget gets opened back up, and they get another email. So we have that iteration circular going until the numbers are lined up and everybody has kind of put their stamp on it and everybody's in agreement. I'm going to go ahead and approve this. So that's the last step for this cost center. And when we go back to our workflow and hit refresh, we will see that now we don't have any budgets in process. We have budgets that are approved. And now we can go to our board book, maybe put it in the PowerPoint integration, or just bring people into Board and have a whole suite of reporting like we looked at in the beginning to compare actuals to these forecasts as things come in and understand where everybody's at. So we're running up against the half hour here. I want to thank everybody for joining, and spend the last few minutes I wanted to save to take a few questions if we have any, to make sure that we can get your gears turning about the things that Board can do for you and the way that it can just kind of revolutionize the way that you do finance and make it more efficient, more repeatable, and more accurate. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions. And Tom, if you could read those off to me, that would be helpful in case I need to click around while we're answering them.
Yeah, sure, Tim. Great job. So we do have one question. If a manager's budget is outside variance, how do they request a new target to bring their budget numbers within variance limits?
That's a really good question. So there's a couple ways. If you recall, and I'm not going to go ahead and click into the screen, there was a whole comment section. So you could do, run comments through and kind of send it that way. But in this particular example, we couldn't send a budget because it was locked down. The best way to do that is with the chat. So if you go into the chat, you can just immediately contact your supervisor. You can show them the validation error and even highlight the number that you're trying to submit. And the really reason you want to use chat versus an email or a phone call is because you can do that screen share with a link to take them right to the place that you want to look. So hopefully that made sense. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, from an integration standpoint, does Board integrate with Google Sheets and other applications?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. Board integrates with just about any system. We have onboard ETL, and it can go cloud to cloud. In the example of Google Sheets or even another cloud application, it can go also cloud to on-premise. So you can reach right down into any data source. So Google Sheets, we have some pre-configured connectors for some of the larger systems like SAP and Oracle. But the important thing to remember is it's built into the product. So it's not a third product you have to buy. It's not another set of expertise that needs to be learned. It all works within the product, and we can. And I've been saying this for years, and I haven't been proven wrong yet. We haven't found a system that we can't integrate with. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great, thanks, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy day for the webinar today. We appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to following up with you and discussing Board in more detail shortly. So have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.